Okay, Saturday, 22nd of June, 2024. So, HODL. How to HODL your Bitcoin? How to HODL your Bitcoin without FOMO, without fear, without pain, without you name it. Now, there's a nice meme in the Bitcoin space that talks about how we are not hodling for our first name, we are hodling for our last name, meaning we're hodling for the long term, the long next generation, the long big game. Fair enough. So it's necessary to remember and keep in mind the big picture, not just tomorrow, not next week, not next hour, not tomorrow morning, not tonight. That's too short frame, too short-term thinking. Going onto a Bitcoin standard ultimately means that you also start thinking long-term. I think it's low time preference, where you start thinking just big picture. Long-term thinking, fair enough. So it's worth remembering the big picture, why you're doing something, and understand fundamentally that in the short term, 12 months at least, at most, the market is dominated by speculators and traders and whatever else. Okay, in the long term, and we can see this in the chart, look at any chart of Bitcoin, and you see that the fundamentals really kick in big time. I always say, when in doubt, zoom out. When in doubt, zoom out. So when you hear that people panicking, oh, the price has done this, done that today, 8% this, 8% that, that's nice. Is it selling at a discount? No, you tell me. But what I can say is, ultimately, the asset's still the same, and look at the chart. When in doubt, zoom out. So keeping the big picture in mind is important, and thinking long term as well. Big picture in mind in the sense of where the price has been going, because where the price goes, and also at the same time adoption, they go hand in hand. Adoption, the mining, the infrastructure, the builders, everything goes hand in hand. That's fundamental. That's the logical side, meaning the price can do this, do whatever it wants, but the infrastructure behind the scenes is building slowly. Awareness and understanding is increasing and spreading. People are adopting it. And so behind the scenes, the market's not panicking. The market's being rational. It's doing its thing. As in, everyone's acting in their best interest. And the price is just a short-term reflection of a balance between fear and greed. That's all that is. Okay? Because understand, fundamentally, that price is what you pay, value is what you get. If you buy something, and you understand the fundamentals of it, the open source code, money, Bitcoin is money you can spend, money you can save, apolitical, deflationary with a fixed supply, and then you understand that, and that's unchanged, it's consistent, but the price is all over the place, then it just means that when it's up here, it's well, is it expensive? And down here, well, you tell me, what's the opposite of expensive? So it's just fluctuations. In the long term, fundamentals kick in, and when you think about in the long term, when you think in terms of 2, 3, 5, 10, 20 odd years into the future, not just in terms of Bitcoin, but in terms of life, in terms of goals, in terms of priorities, where you want to be in the future, then it becomes easier and easier mentally and emotionally and mentally, because I'm not holding Bitcoin just for 12 months, 1 year, 2 years, 3 years. It's 5 years plus. The more the merrier. Again, when in doubt, zoom out. You look at Bitcoin on any 3, 5, 10 year, 10-year chart on a 15-year chart, and the signal, the trend, the direction, the path is increasingly obvious. What's been happening? Why? Why does that happen? And there's loads of dynamics behind it. The fixed supply, but also adoption, awareness is increasing. Therefore, the ecosystem, that positive feedback loop, that flywheel I've discussed in the past, it's kicking in. This is what they mean. This is what the meme talks about when they say game theory. The game theory is kicking in. So when you understand the logic there, the game theory, and the long-term big picture, and you're confident that Bitcoin is the same, it's consistent, and it's just price fluctuation. It's just the FOMO of the it's just the FOMO of oh wow, what's going on? I got a frog in my throat. It's just the FOMO of the moment. Then you can mentally resist that and keep the big picture in mind, therefore making hodling easier and moving into the future. Also, there's a nice chart, which is the 200-day moving average, And within reason, of course, I've not looked at it in a while, probably can find it now. Within reason, that chart is always, here we are, always making new all-time highs. New all-time highs. And this is just maths. This is just data. And what does that mean? It means that ultimately, that if you to look at one single chart, there's two, actually there's three, could argue, that are worthwhile looking at. The price on any candle chart, and you get any candle time frame, it's nice. It's fun, it's speculative, whatever. 200-day moving average, the logarithmic chart, and the, what's it called? The rainbow, logarithmic in terms of, say, coin market cap, but also logarithmic growth curves. Maybe, yeah, this is the rainbow chart. Yeah, and there's probably others out there, but those are some nice ones, because those show you mathematically the projection into the future and show you the past. Now, of course, there's all that. There's that caveat. Oh, past performance is not indicative of future by all means, but we're talking pure maths here. Fair enough. Now, when we look at the rainbow price chart, it shows you this in a much more nicer way. Overpriced, underpriced, you name it, discount, premium, I don't know. You're an adult, you figure it out. You figure out what colour means what. That shows you that the market is constantly going between greed and fear. Then that means that sometimes Bitcoin could be selling at a premium, could be selling at a discount. And when it's selling at a discount, what do you want to do? Well, you tell me. You're an adult, you tell me. But understanding these charts and what they mean mathematically, then it's easy to HODL, especially the 200-day moving average. Well, what does that tell you? It tells you that the purchasing power, the overall demand for said asset is increasing. Why? Because that chart is just going up. And then you can go much more nuanced and say the only thing that matters is the hash rate. Just follow the hash rate. Follow that and everything else will fall into place. Yeah, that's quite, again, mathematically quite on point, quite accurate, yeah. Again, maths, data, looking at the chart, numbers. So then when you have the logical side and understand the maths behind it, it's easy to HODL because you're confident. And the more you understand and the more you study, the increasing confidence you have and increasing conviction you have of the future direction, of Bitcoin. And that's an interesting paradox as well, because you might think, well, I'm HODLing it for, say, 3-5 years. I'm not going to sell it for 5 years down the line. Okay, all ideology aside. But then if you sell it in 5 years from now, what you're actually doing is, you could argue that you're selling yourself short, because then what if in another 5 years, the price goes even higher because of adoption and the flywheel incentives in game theory? What if you're selling yourself short? So then it's an interesting game of chicken. It's he who sells last loses. No, it's the opposite. He who sells first loses, because you have an incentive to HODL. Why HODL it for 3 years when you're sure the prices are going to go up and to the right in 5 years as opposed to 10 years? So you could argue, you want to HODL forever, until the end of time. But of course that's not practical. For we gotta eat, and not at the end of time. That's how many billions of years? See what I mean? It's impractical. But the maths, follow the maths, follow the incentives. It makes sense. So then, when you understand the logic, the maths, and you're not following the daily price. It's nice to look at it, but you're not following it. But you're aware of the fundamentals, and of the game theory. It becomes easy. It becomes exponentially easier. And then you go into the Bitcoin standard, and you're valuing your wealth in Bitcoin, and you're accumulating more each month, and it just becomes exponentially easier. And then it's a question of security. Cold storage. Yeah. Well, why cold storage? It's a question of risk. You have the BTC, you have the Satoshis in an exchange. You've got the same amount of Satoshis in an exchange. Exchange versus cold storage. Same number of Satoshis. Now, they're both going to appreciate at the same rate. The CAGR and the ROI and all the rest. The capital gains. So that's immaterial. It's the same rate. But by holding on an exchange, you've got exponentially more risk. You've got third party, legal, tort, you name it. There was a great tweet, I might be able to find it actually, I'm sure someone quoting Saylor and talking about all the different kinds of legal risk, the different kind of risks you have with stocks, and there were obscure things, reputational risk, supply chain risk, you name it, all sorts of things. You're opening the door to all those potential risks, therefore problems, therefore headaches, therefore disasters. FTX, Luna, you name it. But over here, because the asset's the same as well, and I'll come back to that, you have fewer risks because there's no tort risk, there's no reputation risk, there's no bankruptcy risk. It's just open source software. Now, of course, there's more nuanced things like updated version, keeping it secure, cameras so you're online, keeping your seed phrases online, more nuanced. But numerically, there are far fewer risks in cold storage. Again, the ROI is going to be the same. The number of satoshis and the capital gains is the same. But where do you want less risk? Self-storage. Now, what does that mean? It means it's even easier to hodl because you've got fewer headaches, fewer headaches in terms of FTX, for example, problems, but also fewer potential problems into the future. Why? Because if that exchange or this exchange gets hacked or bankrupt, it's just noise for me. It's just, I heard something about it. I don't know the details. Yeah, whatever. It's immaterial for me if properly stored. Now, self-storage. I just mentioned something very important. Self-storage. Then you want to protect it. The more secure it is, the better. And the easier it is to hodl. The more secure it is, the easier it is to hodl because there's fewer potential problems, fewer risks. And that means then it becomes easy. When you say you want to hodl for 3, 5, 10, 20 years, yeah, you could go the extreme and put it onto a paper wallet, and your wallet only exists on a piece of paper in physical space. Even fewer risks, fewer numerically, but then you could say, well, don't lose the piece of paper, make sure it doesn't get burned, shredded, things like that. Typical, just doesn't wear over time, laminate it, or put it on a stamp seed, put it on metal, the actual words, things like that. So it depends because see, security itself is also a spectrum between security, peace of mind, and recoverability. You can have the most advanced setup possible, but if you can't recover that seed phrase because of this or that happens, then you're in trouble. And so therefore it becomes easier to hodl because it's secure. You're thinking long term. You're not worried about the price because you know the fundamentals, the game theory, everything else. If you want to look at the charts, logarithmic, the rainbow chart, or the simple moving average on the 4-year chart, 1,458 days. Oh, okay, so I guess it's 200 week then, not 200 day. Okay, yeah, things like that. The maths. This is maths. The 4-year chart is just maths. Everything else is in here or in here. Knowledge and the heart, emotions, keeping under control, meaning not panicking, not FOMOing, discipline. And I guess that's much more deep. Discipline, it's just you. It's you individually, you as a person, you as an adult. I'm not sure what to say about that just yet. There should be a follow-up video, I guess, to this, like the emotions. Yeah, because not everyone can handle the volatility. The emotional fortitude needed, the emotional strength needed, the emotional maturity needed, emotional strength needed to weather the Bitcoin revolution. Yeah, that's definitely a good idea for a follow-up video. But otherwise, you will see me tomorrow.